So then my addition to the agenda was consideration of comments on the EIS, the expanded scoping period for that. What I'd like to suggest is maybe we take about a 5-minute break, get a cup of coffee if you want, read through. What I did is I sent to each of you a copy of the letter that we submitted regarding the EIS in January of this year. As you know, since then, because of the Navy's interest in acquiring additional EA-16Gs, they have decided to, let's see, spelling error there. They have decided to expand their scoping to include the potential for the additional aircraft that they've asked for, and also extended the comment period for the EIS. So I sent a copy of that letter to each of the council members and asked if you had any input for consideration for any, and I'm calling it an addendum to our original letter, and I kind of compiled what input I got and drafted this possible letter, and I'm bringing it back for you to consider as a body to see if that might serve your purposes. So how about a little break here for you to read that, and we'll reconvene at 20 to 8 and see if this suits your purposes or not.
And the second paragraph, starting in addition to our comments. So fourth line down, it says, and that flight pattern seems to have varied. I guess I'd like that a little stronger, that the flight patterns have varied. It's small, but I don't think it seems to have varied. I believe they have varied. And,
good.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then
Everybody okay on that one?
Yes.
The second bullet, flight patterns, that one. This is something I talked with you about, Nancy. One of the things I noticed that was so frustrating this summer is that, I mean, I know they have to do certain ones at night. I get that. But I guess I don't understand why they can't start as soon as it's dark instead of waiting till 11 or 11:30. And I know that's kind of maybe what you meant there, and I don't know if we should or spell that out a little more or something. I just never understood that. I mean, why in the world do they start at 11 o'clock at night?
And I didn't state the schedule thinking that it would give us more latitude to discuss it in more detail. But that was what I was trying to get at, is what you had mentioned to me, is that, you know, I mean, I think it'd be nice if they gave us some choices, that they could talk to a group of people and they could say, okay, you know, we need to fly, I'm just making this up, we need to fly for 4 hours when we have training. So, do you prefer we start as soon as it's dark at 9 o'clock, or do you mind if we wait till 11? I bet I know what the answer would be. And, or to be able to understand why they can't do it start as soon as it's dark, rather than starting 2 hours later.
I would put those as specific examples.
Or yeah, maybe you could say
Because
for example.
When I read that, I thought varying the pattern, instead of flying over this ridge most of the time, they fly on the other side.
That's the other thing I was suggesting.
Okay.
It's two things. The first one was on varying the pattern, and because right now they have 2 designated patterns that they fly, and they use one predominantly, and so the same people get it. I believe, it's my personal opinion, that that they could either modify the second one so that they could use it more often. It has to do with prevailing winds, but they've made some choices in the way that second one is outlined. And I'd just like them to review it again to see if maybe they're avoiding an area that they need not avoid, and it would mean that they'd be able to use that side more often. So if you're flying 4 nights in a row, you go Monday on this side, and Tuesday on that side, and Wednesday on this side, Thursday on that side. Same way I'm suggesting, and what I meant to convey, what maybe it's not written very well, first was the pattern, what you could do to provide relief, and the second was the schedule, so that maybe there was a way to have a schedule that was better.
But we've talked about a lot of different scheduling options, and maybe we should list them very specifically so they know exactly what we're thinking about. Not that we're suggesting one over the other, but examples of schedules.
But and if you want, that's fine, but just remember, this is a scoping recommendation. It's what we want them to look at.
Well, but what I would like is, I might like this divided into 2
Sure.
areas. And it's like flight patterns to be reviewed, for example, just so that they know exactly what you're trying to
Sure,
convey.
just give me some words, that'd be fine. I mean, this is, I don't
I
own
think
this.
just kind of what you just said.
Yeah, what you just said. is-
About
that's
if you're
exactly
gonna
right.
go 4 nights a week, could you do one flight
Very
pattern
good.
Monday, a different one Tuesday, like alternate those patterns or
Same
something?
thing.
That was a great example. I thought.
Well, isn't that what that says? Flight patterns be reviewed for options to vary the pattern, providing relief to some residents.
Yeah, but you know what that means because you wrote it.
Well,
Yeah,
I need some help then with words.
That, we're saying to be more specific.
And
Like
I'm
say,
asking for
for
some-
example.
for example,
Okay, what are the 2 flight patterns? Does it depend on if they're coming in from the
Could
north
you-
or the south?
For example, rotating between
Yes.
patterns.
alternate,
Alternating between patterns
Yeah,
on
yeah.
contiguous days.
yeah.
Okay, for example, alternating between patterns on contiguous days.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I might put the other one under separate schedules.
Yeah, I think
Should
that's
be reviewed for day and night flights on a more tolerable schedule.
For example.
Such as, yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Starting
flying
at-
after midnight.
Earlier.
Yeah,
If you need to do night flights, start when it first gets dark instead of late at night.
You're aware 50% of the training has to be done at night.
Yeah,
And that's,
but they don't have to do it. What we're saying is, do you have to do it at 11 PM versus
No,
if it's
no.
dark at 5?
no, you don't.
And do they have to go past midnight or 1 AM?
yeah, that's the other
I
thing.
want us to get enough hours of
A
night
lot of
in.
people,
Well, in the winter though, it's dark at 5 o'clock. I mean,
But yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, they can start earlier.
yeah,
today was about 1.
yeah. They could have flown all day today.
For example, starting at beginning of dark for night flights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. In a separate.
That's a
folder.
really good idea, though, a time limit at night, a midnight.
I thought years ago
I'd
there
like a
was that.
midnight.
I really did. I think years ago they couldn't go past midnight or 12:30 or something. I'm just almost positive.
Okay, so
when I
put that
first
in as
did
another
that.
example, Nancy.
Not
Or-
flying,
or-
not flying past midnight.
Consider,
Okay, if you want to ask that, I mean, I'm just going to tell you that I think the reality is if you don't want them to fly Friday through Sunday, it's going to be harder. You got to give them some time to fly when it's dark. I mean, summer, it's dark at 9 or later, and if you don't want them to fly until past midnight, you're not giving them very many hours.
Well,
I mean, we can ask for that, I'm just telling you, it's probably not likely to accommodate what they need. I mean, they don't want to fly at 2 in the morning either.
Oh, I think they do. I'm sort of facetious.
but for the majority of the year,
Yeah.
they could easily get 4 hours of flying and be done by midnight.
Well, but
They
you don't know
usually
if 4
are.
hours is enough, Molly.
Hmm?
You don't know if 4 hours is enough.
Oh, I thought someone just said they fly for 4 hours.
No,
Oh.
I mean, I don't
They
know
vary.
how much time they need.
It depends on where they are and if they're coming back and where they're leaving to.
Well, or how much training they've had, yeah. What,
So you want me to say, for example, starting at beginning of dark for night flights, or limiting the hour at which they fly?
No, be specific.
Well, tell me what you want.
Or
flight operations
We would prefer
terminated.
that you
At
not
midnight.
fly past.
at midnight, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say or, that take one or the other.
Yeah, and.
And flights terminate at midnight? Or flights,
Excellent.
Terminated,
what word do you want to use?
And Bob had it, flight operations
terminated.
terminated by midnight.
Never gonna get
I mean, all they can say is no. I think
Well,
we
right,
should
I mean,
put
but I
no
think
on
that's
there.
what
I
we
think
should,
they
that's right.
want this. They
We're
want
not gonna
this.
get all this stuff, but I think we should be more specific.
This is what we like.
I just don't want them not to look at other options. If you give them a specific thing you want them to look at, and they say, we can't do that because when we fly, I'm just making this up, we have to go in 4-hour increments, and in the summer, there's not 4 hours of dark before midnight.
Which is
That
why,
takes care of
for
that.
example,
That's why,
is
yeah.
Okay,
just to get them on.
it's your letter, let's go that route.
But then the flip side of that is, okay, yeah, we understand that for 4 months of the year, so for the 8 other months of the year, terminate by midnight.
I got it.
Okay. And then the other thing that we talked about was, on scheduling, is maybe scheduling 1 week of night flights and 1 week of day flights as a possibility.
If you want to include that, we can do that.
I'm not
Do-
sure.
is
I don't
it-
think I like that. I wouldn't want,
I don't know if that
No, I'd like-
accomplishes their
I
mission.
would want 4 days of.
Okay,
Right.
okay, so here's
Maybe
what I'm
sleep
going at, and then that doesn't have to be the fix. So just like okay, so this is perfect. Just like you're saying, start the night flights as soon as it's dark and terminate by midnight, then do some kind of scheduling window for day flights also, so that the outdoor workers, the farmers, the school children, people can plan for that.
Do you want them scheduled, or do you want them to occur at a certain hour? They already provide a schedule when they're gonna fly.
I know, but the schedule is like, we may be flying for 12 hours this day. So within that scheduled time they're posting, they can fly anytime during that time.
So you want the exact schedule.
No, not the exact schedule, but couldn't you put a window, a beginning and ending window for day flights like you do, like we just did requested for night flights?
You can ask for any of those things. I think that what you're asking is too tight, but this is your letter, so whatever you want to write, we'll
On the
do.
second page, we talk about the farm workers.
Right. And again, there's a reference to scheduling there, but it's not specific. Consideration to outdoor workers in the flight pattern and schedule is critical to maintaining this important part. So I'm just thinking for like a specific example for that also.
I don't know if this is even reasonable, not being a farm worker. But providing, is there some kind of super duper thing they can provide farm workers, the farmers to give
Oh,
their
they've all
workers?
got that. They've all got jet ranked.
They do?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
They've had
I don't know
it
that
for years.
it's jet ranked. I know that some people wear earphones. I
Military
don't know that it's
generally
jet
has
ranked.
the best.
They are.
You know that for
Yeah,
sure?
yeah.
All the farmers have that?
I
You're making a
don't know
very
about
broad
all the
statement.
farmers. I don't know about all the farmers. I know Rose Hips does.
Yeah, but some of them probably can't afford to do that.
Might be the only ones.
Anyway, that's my.
And they wear earplugs under them.
Just give me the words that you want here. I don't know. What do you want here?
Well, no, it doesn't sound like the rest of the councilmen want that window for daytime. I'm just thinking if you can have a planned upon window, like if they're, like saying daytime flights start at noon or 11 and go a certain amount of time. It gives the farmers time to get out there at 5 o'clock in the morning and get their field work done before the planes start flying.
I guess I wouldn't be comfortable putting something like that in without the input of the farmers, and I would hope that they're putting what would work best for them in their letters. And I think we do address on the second page about the farmers and being, consideration to it, which to me is give leverage, look at what the farmers are saying would work best for them and do something in that direction, rather for us to think maybe they should work from 6 to noon or something. I don't know.
This EIS process, this is the scoping process right now, and they're asking for comments of what do you think we should study in our draft impact statement. That's why I was trying to be kind of broad, because then they'll write their draft statement and we have the opportunity to comment on that again. So at that point, you might want to fine tune. If they say, well, here's 3 options, you could say, well, that second option really needs to be, da-da-da-da-da. You can do the specific suggestions if you want to, but what you're really asking is for them to,
Or subject.
yeah, it's like when you're talking about in the first letter, we asked them to study the health impacts on kids. You're not asking them and determine whether or not their hearing is affected if they hear the planes 4 hours, 3 nights a week, different than if it's 5 nights a week. You're not getting into that level of detail at this point. You can, but I'm not sure that, I just don't want anything to get discounted because you make one specific suggestion and they would say, well, we considered that, but because we have to fly, I'm just making this up, in 4-hour increments, we can't do what you just asked. I'd rather you say, we'd like to see if you could schedule it in a way that's compatible. Like you said, we don't know what the best schedule is for the farmers. But again, whatever words you all can reach a consensus on.
Did you have a word, Becky?
No, I think that was it. I mean, I think I still like to give the examples. I think even if we keep it broad, it will be easy for them to say, well, yeah, we really can't change the schedule because we got to do this or that. So I think no matter how we do it, there'll be ways out of.
At least they know what we're trying to get
Yeah,
at.
I don't see the harm in giving some examples. I agree that I don't think we want to get terribly specific, but I don't think there's any harm in a few.
So what have we got that we
Suggestions.
haven't got in here yet that y'all wanna?
I have some things.
Yeah, I'm done.
Anybody? Yeah, anybody.
I'm done.
Okay, second paragraph, fourth sentence. I have happened to be a couple times in meetings where, I wasn't there for that reason, but the Navy was explaining to upset residents about changes in flight patterns. And I noticed that they were using the same words, but they meant different things to them. And one was up in Degwalla, and the folks up there were saying, you've changed your flight patterns. And the Navy's saying, no, we haven't changed our flight pattern. Well, when I later talked to the Navy person, their flight pattern was like 1.5 miles wide.
Right.
And so they were still within that, but they were flying a different part of that flight pattern over their house versus in the bay. And so I watched that happen twice, and they were arguing back and forth, and they were both right, but they had different, the word flight
Terminology
pattern.
wasn't
Yeah,
for
was.
everybody.
And so the flight pattern maybe to the Navy hasn't varied. They're still in their 2-mile zone or whatever it is, which is pretty wide. But where they're flying in their flight pattern has changed. I don't know how to say that, but I watched that miscommunication, and both sides just got totally frustrated, and they never did resolve. You know, it's like, no, you're wrong, you've changed it. No, we haven't. I went back and forth. It's like, okay, that worked. And maybe it's that the jets seem to be going over, I mean, it's actually the jets are going over different areas more than they used to.
They are.
Well, they are.
Because the plane goes
But they're-
faster and it.
But they're
and it
still in their
requires
flight
less.
pattern.
Yeah, they're still within the
I
envelope
don't
they're
know if
supposed to
somebody
be.
has some idea. I don't, that's,
Well, maybe it's just that it says, and the flight patterns have varied. She doesn't use the word changed. That's,
the flight pattern hasn't varied. The way the jets fly within the flight pattern has varied.
If you want to say that, you could say, and the flight within the patterns
Yeah.
has varied. There you go.
Can I
I think you're getting
Say
too
something?
nitpicky.
Well,
just because I happen to live on the edge of the flight pattern, they, at least at our house, they're not only have they changed sort of the path within their window,
they're outside of it.
they're pushing it outside of the path. Yeah.
Okay.
And I did talk about
She did
that
say
later,
that,
there's
yeah.
a number of times when they go out.
Anyway,
Yeah.
just one.
So you want to say, and that flights within the pattern
Yeah.
have varied?
And I'm fine if nobody.
no, I'm fine with
Is
that.
that all right?
Yeah.
Because I know sometimes they're right over my house and sometimes they're a little bit over, you know.
But they're still in their flight
I
pattern.
suppose, yeah.
The third paragraph, first one, instead of our hope is, I'd like to strengthen that to say, overall, we request there be no increase. But I know this is the scope, but, and then,
So yeah, let's just see if we got closure on that or not. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
however, what is it now?
Request.
Over our,
We request,
There is no increase. Yeah, there is, or there be no increase, or whatever.
there be, okay.
When we end it, a flight we experience, there's actually a time frame. I remember when I lived down at Coupeville Lake was the high time when they were flying a whole lot more than they were maybe supposed to. I mean, it's kind of like you don't want to go back to that because they admitted, I think, that they were flying too much.
well, the number
Yeah.
of flights, that's right. They are limited to a certain number right now.
So it's more the flights that they are currently limited to. I think that's what I mean, not experience, because if you go back 3 or 4 years, it was like
So they were flying more than what they were allowed
Yeah.
under that
Yeah.
existing EIS.
And now they're
So
flying the
you're-
right amount.
Yes.
So what words would you like to have there?
Well, you have, you know, you seem to be in the military, mind you doing that? Of flights, in the number of flights you are currently allowed, or something,
Mhm.
currently allocated, or.
You are currently allocated?
Well,
I don't
Well,
know if
it's
there is an
actually-
actual allocation.
no, it's that they're allowed under the existing
Yeah.
EIS statement, which that's what they're
Yeah.
supposed to be doing.
It's an EA.
So that you're allowed under what they're existing.
The current
the
EIS?
current,
Yeah, I think that's where the
It's
the
EA,
number
it's not
comes
an
from.
EIS, it's EA,
Where
environmental
it is.
assessment. Overall, we request that there be no increase in the number of flights, hours of flight you are allowed under the current EA,
yeah.
and that flight operations be
It's
mitigated.
not ours either, it's number of
Num-
mission, or what would they call it?
Training-
That's why I wrote it the way I did, because I
training,
wasn't certain of the
training.
technical
Not ours,
terms.
it's just a mission that
Training
each
and
plane
missions.
does. That's one,
Yeah.
and they have so many numbers, I don't know what you call it
6,000 or
though.
something. Yeah.
That's why I
Well,
didn't
that's
try to get
fine.
so technical,
Yeah,
because I don't know the right
I'm
terms.
okay with
Yeah, I
flight
think
hours.
that's okay.
Then, is, are you, everybody okay with that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
On the third bullet, first sentence, that the number of aircraft in the flight pattern be limited to a number that can maintain, again, the normal pattern. What's normal?
Defined, you want to say
The
the
defined
defined
pattern
pattern?
or the degrees of calm or the.
Or you could just say the number of aircraft in the flight pattern be limited to 3.
No,
It's when they go over 3 that they go all wonky out of, you know.
they're flying a certain number of each one. I think it's 5.
Well,
I've seen 5.
that, they're telling you, when you go to those public meetings, they tell you once in a blue moon, they have to put 5 in, but they really don't like that, and it's not their preferred training.
Well,
The reason I didn't
Okay.
want to specify the numbers is because
It
you're
could
assuming
change.
that the flight pattern they currently have would be the one they'd have in the future. What if they extend it out further or make it shorter? Then the number you're saying may not be the right number. That's
they're
why I was
training-
trying to say, if you have a pattern, don't have more jets in it than can stay in it. So it doesn't make any difference if the pattern is smaller or shorter, the number of jets need to be reduced or it couldn't be expanded beyond what you could
Yeah,
manage
what they
within
can
that.
handle in there.
It was more a concept I was trying to suggest rather than to tell them how many miles the pattern should be and how many jets they should fly in. I don't presume to know that part.
And the training requirements could change, you know.
My only thing was normal is, everybody's got a different normal.
Well,
Maintain the current pattern?
But
Should it
what,
say maintain the current?
if you say that, the concern I have is that my issue is that they stay in what I call the normal pattern and that they don't vary that mile and a half.
So the prescribed pattern, the current
No,
prescribed.
because they usually are in the prescribed pattern. What they are is in a different area of the prescribed pattern. What I was trying to say, and you don't have to go with this, is I wasn't trying to say, there's a mile and a half width, let's say, in the pattern, if that's the right number. And if they usually fly in this half mile, and today they fly in the outer half mile, different people get upset because they're hearing it differently. Normal is out here because that's where they fly 9 out of 10 times. But defined, they're still in their defined pattern. That's why I was using the word normal, because that's what people are complaining about. They are within the pattern, but they're
Just
on the
also ask them to rotate their normal pattern.
Well, you choose the words.
I'm okay if you guys are okay with normal, it's just.
You can have defined, you can say the
Well,
pattern.
the next sentence, though, explains what your first sentence is.
So maybe it's,
That's what I thought.
instead, it's a
Yeah.
comma,
Yeah.
for example, we have observed, or maybe you add, for example. That then, because I didn't necessarily connect the two, even though they're next to each other. I don't know.
Well, you're trying to say what the subject is they should take a look at. And the subject is that they need to stay in a certain pattern for how many aircraft they have, and.
Okay, I'm cool.
And we understand that it's training and they're gonna make errors and they'll go outside once in a while, but the objective is to stay within that area.
So what do you want to end up with changing on that one?
It sounds like we don't need to change it.
Okay.
Okay.
On the second page, under the farmer's paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, the sentence that starts the fourth line up that says the noise of the growlers has made outdoor work very difficult
Uh-huh.
on flight days. Can we add the word, do you put vibrations, or is the correct word like you used here, reverberations? Can we say the noise and reverberations of the growlers has made outdoor work very difficult?
Oh, sure, yeah.
And I did that because they argue there's a difference between those two things. So that sounds good.
Well, they've been arguing that it isn't louder.
Right, that it's reverberation.
See, that's another thing about arguing over semantics of flight
Reverberation,
patterns.
really loud
When we
then.
say they're louder and then.
The reverberations are louder than they used to be, yeah.
It's a semantic, it's
Yeah.
a detail they're not explaining.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Well, I just think if they get a whole bunch more, then it'll be just,
I hope everybody writes letters.
I mean, I'm not
Nancy,
saying
the
to add
last
any of that, but, yeah.
little part should say, thank, or says thank you. Just thank you for giving us the opportunity to provide additional input or something like that.
Allowing us.
Thank you for,
Allowing us.
you tell me what word you like.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to provide it.
Okay. So do you want me to read what we have now? Make sure we're all clear on it?
I'm okay with you not
I'm
doing that.
okay.
I'm okay.
I'm okay with it.
So we'll, if you want to approve this letter for submission by the council, we'll clean up the copy and have it ready for you to sign.
Can you email us a cleaned up copy?
Yeah, I'll do
And
that.
then we could look at it and then.
Make sure I didn't miss anything. But we need to have action at the council level here for you to, but I'll email it to you cleaned up. If I made a mistake on something, you can let me know.
We have to wait till next council meeting? to-
No, it has to be in by January 9th.
Can't we just now tell you to go do this and then we'll come in and sign it?
That's what I said.
Oh,
That I would, you approve
that's
it.
council action.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you take council action here to authorize this letter
Oh, that's what I
that you
said.
want to sign.
Yeah,
We'll clean it up and send it to you, make sure we didn't make any typos in what you've asked, and then have it ready for you to come in and sign.
Yeah, I want you to do that.
Okay. But what we need is council, a motion from the council to approve sending this letter.
Okay, so what's the motion? I would move to approve the letter,
The EIS comments as edited or something?
yeah, there you go.
I would second what you said and what the mayor said as part of the motion.
Been moved and seconded to approve submission of the EIS comments as edited. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Maybe we should put December 9th in there somewhere.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is there discussion on the motion?
Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I think you'd like me to send you a copy of that letter when I get done, huh? Okay. That brings us to the second opportunity on the agenda for audience input. We haven't got any yet.
We still don't have any ideas.
So with that, meeting's adjourned.